Hello everyone, I am Ankit and you are watching the Indian Express analysis, but this session is going on a new time, that is 4 p.m. every day. Now today is 15th of February, I hope you had a very great Valentine's Day. So let us start our today's discussion for 15th of February, and as you can see there are 6 important articles today. 4 of these articles belong to the outcomes of Prime Minister Modi's meeting with the US President Trump. So we'll start with the first article of the day that highlights new initiatives have been taken under the Quad. Quad is an informal grouping of 4 countries: US, India, Australia and Japan. Now under these groupings, new initiatives have been started. So we'll be discussing that initiatives, and such initiatives are important from which syllabus? GS paper 2 syllabus, because it deals with matters related to international relations. And this article appeared on page 5th. Then second article for today will be on the process of appointment of CBI director. And why this is in news? Because Vice President of India, Mr. Jagdeep Dhankar, has raised concerns. He has said that in appointment of CBI director, there is an involvement of Chief Justice of India. Whereas on the other hand, appointment of a CBI director is an executive task. So why is actually judiciary interfering in appointment of the CBI director? So that will try to understand what is the process of appointment, and these kind of articles are important from GS paper 2 perspective because it deals with matters relating to polity and governance, right? So then we'll be moving on to the third article. This one is on climate risk index, which is an index published by an NGO called German Watch, and it highlights India is at the 6th position. So why is actually India at the 6th position in any index? We'll try to understand in addition to what has been covered in this index. Now give me a second. Good evening Baga, good evening Amar, good evening Let's Try, good evening Augustine, good morning, good evening Rachpal, good morning FTY, good evening Rishabh. Yes, see, I'm still saying good morning, old habits, right? Yashi, good evening. Yes. Now then, this article is important from GS paper 3 perspective as it highlights the risk associated with climate change, and that is why climate change is a part of environment syllabus. Therefore, I have written here GS paper 3. Now then we'll be understanding Trust Initiative. Trust Initiative is a successor initiative of ICET, which is a collaboration between India and US in order to undertake technological developments in many sectors. So this trust initiative is actually important from GS paper 2 perspective, again a part of IR syllabus. Then we'll be understanding US-India 123 agreement. If you think what is this 123 agreement, you have never heard about it, right? This 123 agreement is actually the formal name of India-US nuclear deal. So we'll try to understand what are the transformative steps that have been agreed by these two governments in order to enact and implement the India-US nuclear agreement, also known as the 123 agreement. Again, this is a part of GS paper 2 syllabus, that is deals with international relations, but it also deals with nuclear energy. So it is also a part of GS paper 3 syllabus, right? That is a part of economy. So we'll try to understand in detail what are the provisions in the 123 agreement that has been delayed because of many initiatives both in US as well as India, and what are these two countries trying to do in order to implement this 123 agreement at a faster date. Then we'll be understanding how reciprocal tariffs work, because as we know, President Trump has imposed reciprocal tariffs on all the trading partners of US, not just 1 or 2 countries. So we'll try to understand what are these reciprocal tariffs, how are they expected to work, and what are its impact on India before concluding our today's session, right? Now these type of articles, I'm sorry, they are important from tier 8 perspective. That is why they are a part of GS paper 3 syllabus, right? So these are the articles that we are going to cover today. Now as usual, you understand the notes for this session will be available on my Telegram channel called as ATS Live. Give me a second, I'll wear my jacket. Now the notes for this session will be available on my Telegram channel called as ATS Live. So please go and search ATS Live on Telegram. You'll be able to find my channel, and also if you are still unable to find it, you also have an option to scan the QR code. Now I tell you every day, and I'll also telling you now that I'm in a process of uploading many informative and UPSC related reels on my Instagram handle called as ANKTSNGH. So please make sure to visit my Instagram handle and tell me if you like these reels or not, or do I need to improve, right? Now let us start our today's discussion by discussing yesterday's question. Good evening, Kusum. How are you? Good morning, Revolutionaries IAS Academy. I forgot your name. You had told me your name before. Good evening. Amar, hello sir. How are you? I'm good, Amar. How are you doing? Now, this question that I provided you yesterday, it has been drafted on a similar lines to a question which appeared on artificial intelligence back in 2020. Now, if you read this question, with the present state of development, space technologies, they can effectively lead to development of which of the following? Now, yesterday there was this brilliant article on Indian Express and it told us that space sector and its related technologies, these are not just important for space sector, but when developed, these technologies can have applications into our day-to-day life, right? So we understood they can be used to design collision prevent system in automobiles, which are also known as ADAS system, which are warning systems that warn the driver in case there is a person approaching the road or in front of the vehicle. Also, if the driver is getting dizzy or is looking to get asleep on the wheel, the system also alerts the driver so as to wake up and drive properly. So these kind of collision prevention systems, they have been developed from algorithms, cameras, etc., which have been developed for various space related applications. So first is right, memory foam mattress also was developed by NASA, and then it resulted into development of memory foam mattress that are available in the market now for yours and my consumption perspective. So second statement is right. Detection and counting of people in heavily crowded space, yes, these are also correct. Actually, these two have similar applications and they have been developed by use of cameras, algorithms, softwares that were originally developed for lunar missions by NASA. Then measurement of parcels before they are posted, yes, again correct. You can use the cameras and motions of these parcels to detect how many parcels have flown through a particular area, which can be used by companies like Flipkart and Amazon that handle lakhs and lakhs of parcels every day. And also it will make their processes much more automated and efficient. Then corrosion resistant coating are also developed by ISRO, which prevents any surface from getting corroded. So you can understand these paintings and coatings, they can be implemented on any application or anything that is used on earth also, and that will prevent these bodies or from these objects from catching corrosion or even rust, right? So all these five are correct, and the correct answer to this question is option D, all the statements right. Okay, so that is how you try to understand an article and expand your knowledge on how these kind of technologies can be applied to day-to-day work, right? Divyansh Tiwari, now I'll remember your name, Divyansh. Now let us start our today's discussion with this first article of the day. This article actually appeared on page 5th of the newspaper, and it details that Prime Minister Modi and US President Trump, they have agreed to activate new initiatives under the quadrilateral grouping, also known as Quad, right? So this initiative, which has been taken under quadrilateral grouping. Now this grouping was originally formed by 4 countries, India, US, Australia and Japan. But the success of this initiative has made these countries aware that these initiatives can be expanded to other partners of US and India, right? These are countries located in Middle East or even in Indian Ocean region, right? So that is why these new initiatives will convene partners of India and US under the India Middle East European corridor, and also the I2U2 group, which is known as Western Quad. Right now, these joint statement, which was passed after PM Modi and Donald Trump met, it highlighted that Indian Ocean Strategic Venture will also be created, and it is expected to announce new ventures so as to develop many initiatives under the Indian Ocean region and also nearby areas. So let us try to understand first of all what is a quadrilateral grouping, right? Before understanding what are the newer developments in quadrilateral grouping. Now quadrilateral grouping, it was formerly known as quadrilateral security grouping. Now this began originally during the time of tsunami when it impacted countries like India and many other countries in the Indian Ocean region. Now these countries, they were devastated. So many Western countries, developed countries, they tried to help India, Sri Lanka, etc., who were devastated by tsunamis by forming an informal grouping so as to provide initial disaster relief and also encourage and build up their disaster preparedness. So this is how this grouping started to form. Now it was formalized by former Japanese Prime Minister who is now been killed, Shinzo Shinzo Abe back in 2007. However, after that it felt dormant because nearly a decade after that, countries like Australia, they were quite afraid of instigating China. So they thought if they join these groupings by Western countries, they will try to get into bad graces of China, and hence it will impact their national interest. So that is why Australia and countries like Australia, they try to like go slow on Quad initiatives. However, this Quad initiative, it was resurrected back in 2017, and this reflected the change in attitudes of countries like India, US, Australia and Japan. They saw that China was on a verge of expansionism, and this put these countries into danger as their interest was sacrificed by the China's move. So this grouping was primarily aimed at countering the China's growing influence in the Indian Ocean, Western Pacific and other regions, right? So both Trump and Biden administration after that, they were quite positive on the initiatives like Quad, etc. And that is why they placed more focus on the Indo-Pacific region, which is a primary region where China operates, and also these countries have many security, economic and territorial interests, right? So this Quad grouping, it aims primarily at countering China's growing influence. You have to remember that. Now, the status of Quad, is it actually a military alliance like NATO? The answer is no. Is it like an economic union like European Union? The answer is no. It is actually a plurilateral framework. What do I mean by plurilateral? That is more than one countries when they are getting together. It is known as plurilateral. Now, these are maritime democracies, all of these 4 countries, and they want that the global good like Indo-Pacific waters, they should be open for all. Now for this quadrilateral, you can say it is a diplomatic partnership and not a military alliance, not a defense agreement. And these are between 4 countries, as I've already told you, India, Japan, Australia as well as US. Now the purpose of this grouping is to support an open, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Now this grouping, it directly does not mention that they aim to counter China. But what they say is that they want an open, free and prosperous Indo-Pacific. Now, who is making Indo-Pacific not free and not so prosperous? Naturally China, right? So that is why indirectly they are highlighting that they want to counter China's growing influence. Now, let us understand what is the significance of Quad. Why is actually every country, all of these 4 countries, they are quite so positive on Quad. First of all is that it provides these countries the platform to strategically balance China. That first of all of these countries, they are involved in some kind of a conflict with China. US is involved in a trade conflict. India until very recently was involved in a territorial conflict. And also Japan and Australia, their ships, both military and non-military, when they were navigating waters of Indo-Pacific, Chinese military, what they did was they brought their ships very close to these Australian and Japanese ships. So that is why Australia and Japan, they were threatened by China. So in order to counter these Chinese aggressive maneuvers in field of economy, in the field of trade, in the field of military, they wanted to get together and form a loose partnership. That is why this Quad is very important for them. Also, it provides them with the initiative to strengthen their maritime security so that these 4 countries, they can collaborate together. Their navies can operate in exchange in these areas and also deny any Chinese aggressive maneuvers in this area, and thereby they want to make Indo-Pacific as well as Indian Ocean region free, open as well as inclusive for every country in the world, not just one country like China. Also, after the success of these initiatives, what we have seen that they have diverged into other areas. And primarily, it has now also looked to diverse towards seeking an economic collaboration, and they came to know this during the time of COVID pandemic, when because of COVID we saw there was this mass scale disruption and lockdown activities. And these lockdown activities in countries like China, it resulted into delays in supply of many raw material, or it led to supply chain disruption. So these countries felt then when they were solely dependent on China for import of raw materials, and if there was any kind of disruption in China, it threatened their trade of raw materials with China. So they wanted to set up factories in other countries also, and for that India is a very better alternative for them. That is why these countries, they want to collaborate economically so as to set up factories in other countries and reduce their dependence on China, right? So this is how economic collaboration wants to be done by Quad. Further, they are looking to improve health and humanitarian efforts also, as during COVID-19 pandemic, these countries, they developed a grouping so as to develop vaccines which can be delivered to many countries of the grouping and also to other developing countries. Further, the primary intention of this group was originally disaster response, and you understand with the onset of climate change, this disaster instances will happen quite frequently. So as to make these countries ready to face any consequences of the disaster and also to undertake disaster relief work in other countries, these countries are collaborating on the virtue or on the platform of COD. Understood? Hello, Ningthisiam. If I'm incorrect, I'm not able to pronounce your name. Ningthisansiam. Okay. Pardon me if I got your spelling incorrect, right? Now, let us understand the significance of Quad for India. Now, first of all, India wants to counter the rise of China. It is very clear. As India was involved in a territorial conflict primarily in the regions of Ladakh as well as the northeastern part of the country near the Siliguri corridor. So this India wants to counter the rise of China and it wants to see collaboration with like-minded countries, all of which are democracies like US, Australia and Japan. As US, you know, has supported India magnificently. They've provided intelligence inputs, they've provided us with military hardware. So that is why through this, India wants to counter the rise of China. And also by involving these like-minded countries, all of which have very great relations with Southeast Asian nations, India wants to further its Act East policy. As Act East policy will not just bring India closer to Southeast Asian countries, but it will also lead to development in India's lesser developed regions like northeast part of the country. Also, India wants to boost its military capabilities, and for that, India wants to seek interoperability with other countries and their navies. For that, many exercises happen between these two countries, and Malabar exercise, it involves all these four countries who are also the members of Quad. Further, India wants to take development related to technology as well as economic cooperation. Primarily, it wants to have a domestic manufacturing capability of semiconductors and also want to change or want to undertake a supply chain resilience initiative. As I told you, right, during the time of COVID, there was this mass scale disruption which led to delays in import of goods from China. So when these countries, they will be setting up factories in India, it will not just make supply chain more resilient, but it will also lead to economic development of India, right? So this is what Quad brings in, or it brings several significance for countries like India. Now let us understand what were the newer developments that has been given in today's article, right? Now both of these leaders, they've agreed to enhance cooperation, enhance diplomatic consultation and also increase tangible collaboration not just with Quad countries but also with their partners in other areas, primarily the countries of Middle East, because you know, countries in Middle East, they are forever in conflict, one conflict or the other. Earlier it was Iran and Saudi Arabia, they were against each other. Now all of these countries, they have gotten against Israel. Now in order to make Middle East a much more peaceful and prosperous region, India and US, they are trying to collaborate with their partners in Middle East by setting up of critical infrastructure and also setting up of economic corridors. For example, if you notice a few months back, India introduced India Middle East Europe economic corridor, which will connect India first with Middle East and then to Europe. So this will lead to development and prosperity in whole of Middle East and Europe, which will also lead to peace and tranquility in the Middle East region, which is much needed. Also, India had another grouping called as I2U2 group, which is also known as Western Quad, and this involves India, US, Israel as well as UAE. So this grouping as well as India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor, it will lead to development in Middle East, and that is why both India and US want that. Now another initiative which was introduced by this under this new quadrilateral grouping is that Indian Ocean Strategic Venture. Now you understand, Indian Ocean region, it is a very important sea trade, or it is very important for global trade to happen because it carries many important sea lines of communication. So these waters of Indian Ocean, they also have massive presence of underwater or undersea cable project, which leads to connections of both internet as well as telecom connectivity. Now Meta, which is the parent company of Instagram, Facebook as well as WhatsApp, they have decided to set up a multi-million-dollar investment and undertake development in the laying down of undersea cable project. And India, it intends to invest in this maintenance, repair and financing of these undersea cables as it is very important for India to connect with the world and also important for global internet connectivity. Also, India and US, they understand that there is a need to build plurilateral partnerships with countries located in Western Indian Ocean, Middle East and Indo-Pacific so as to grow their relations, commerce as well as cooperation in various fields, be it defense, technology, energy, critical infrastructure and also the development of critical minerals. So these are the newer developments in the Quad initiative, that earlier these 4 countries were involved in collaboration with each other, but with the success of this initiative, India and US, they have realized that these initiatives can be extended to other partners in the region, be it Middle East, be it Indian Ocean region, be it Southeast Asian countries, and this is in a very outlook intended to counter the growing influence of China in all these regions, right? Now let us try to solve the first question of the day. Consider the following statements regarding quadrilateral security dialogue. Now, Quad, it is a military alliance consisting of India, United States, Japan and Australia. Although it consists of these 4 countries, but you understand, is it a military alliance? The answer is no, it is a diplomatic partnership and not a military alliance. So, first statement becomes incorrect. That is why I tell you, please reread the statements again if you are solving the paper, because these kind of wordplay can be used in exam, and if you are very careless, you will be able to miss out on such developments and mark such an easy statement incorrect. Okay. Now, Quad, it was primarily established to promote economic integration among member countries. Now, was it primarily to promote economic integration? The answer is incorrect. Why am I saying so? It was primarily a strategic initiative which was intended indirectly to counter the rise of China. But after the success of such strategic initiatives, these countries have realized that they can also collaborate in the field of economy and trade, right? So, it was not primarily designed to promote economic integration. Therefore, second statement also is incorrect. The third statement, Malabar naval exercise, it is often associated with quadrilateral grouping. Yes, correct. Because Malabar, it involves 4 navies which are also the member of quadrilateral grouping, that is Indian Navy, United States Navy, Japan as well as Australian Navy. So, third statement only is correct, first and second are incorrect, and we have to identify here incorrect statement, right? So, first and second incorrect, therefore, option A here is the right answer. Yes, you are right, Amar. No, not B, sorry, revolutionary. Yes, Divyansh, yes, you are right. Yashi, you are right also. Now, let us move to another article. This article appeared on page 6 of the newspaper, and this article actually quotes Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar, as he has expressed his surprise or shock when he came to know that CJI is involved in directly appointing the director of CBI. Now, this article is in question because what Jagdeep Dhankar has highlighted, that appointment of a director of an investigative agency like CBI is an executive or is an exclusive prerogative of executive of the India, that is the government of India. But when government is involving CJI, which is a part of judiciary, it try to violate the separation of power principle which is ingrained in the Indian constitution. So, this is the primary cause of concern of the Vice President Jagdeep Dhankar. So, let us try to understand first of all a very basic detail of what is CBI and how is the director of CBI appointed, or what is the procedure for appointing the director of CBI. Give me a second, I'll have water. Now, yes, talking about CBI. Now, CBI, it was set up in 1963 by a resolution brought by Ministry of Home Affairs, and this was established as per the recommendation made by the Santhanam Committee. Now, the nature of CBI, it is that it is a non-constitutional as well as a non-statutory body. Why am I saying non-constitutional? Because CBI does not get its power from Constitution of India. And why non-statutory? Because there is no particular act which forms or which leads to formation of CBI. Rather, the powers of CBI, it is derived from an act which is known as Delhi Special Police Establishment Act of 1946, as it derives its power from another act. That is why it is a non-statutory act. Understood? Now, It is a main investigative agency of the central government, and it also acts as a national central bureau or national coordinating authority when it relates to matters of coordination with other international bodies like Interpol. So whenever Interpol has something they want to investigate in India, their primary nodal authority is CBI, and then CBI contacts with other state bodies so as to investigate the matters which is raised by Interpol. Now the head of CBI, the post is called as Director of CBI, and he is appointed for a 2-year tenure which is provided under the act called as Central Vigilance Commission Act 2003. Now, the process of appointing the CBI director, it was mentioned in the Lokpal and Lokayukta Act, which amended the Delhi Special Police Act or Special Police Establishment Act, through which CBI was formed, and it made certain changes. Now, the CBI director, he or she is appointed by central government, and the process of appointment is that the recommendation of the names of officer who shall be appointed as the CBI director will be made by a 3-member committee consisting of Prime Minister of India, Leader of Opposition in the Lok Sabha, as well as the Chief Justice of India or any judge of Supreme Court who is nominated by Chief Justice of India. So this is a 3-member committee which includes Prime Minister, that is the executive, Leader of Opposition, which is a part of legislature, and the Chief Justice of India or any judge of Supreme Court who are part of judiciary. And this very involvement of judiciary in appointing an executive is what is highlighted by the Vice President of India in today's article. Now let us solve this another practice question. Consider the following statement regarding the appointment of Director of CBI. Now CBI Director is appointed by President of India on the recommendation of Selection Committee. Yes, it is right, but is he appointed by President of India? The answer is no, he is appointed by the central government and not President of India. And why am I saying so? Because the article Lokayukta Act of 2013, it amended DSP Act, which provided for that central government shall appoint the CBI director. The second statement, the selection committee consists of Prime Minister, right, Chief Justice of India or a judge nominated by them, and the Leader of Opposition in the Lok Sabha. Yes, second statement is right. The tenure of CBI director is fixed for a period of 5 years. Is it 5 years? The answer is no, it is 2 years and not 5 years. So first and third are incorrect, only second is right, and we had to identify correct statement. Therefore, option B here is the right answer. Now, Ashil Patel, how to cover current affairs for CS 25? Can you please address it at the end of the session? I am addressing it now. Ashil Patel, please try to watch these sessions every day, and I am uploading the notes immediately after the session ends on my Telegram channel also. So please download the notes from them. As far as the previous current affairs are concerned, please download any monthly magazine of any reputed institution and please follow them on a monthly basis. But from now onwards, please try to follow our session as we deal everything in detail, so you will not be missing out on anything if you follow it from today onwards. But before that, please do what I have said. Now, moving to another article, this one actually appeared in the editorial section of the newspaper, which is currently on page 10. And it highlights that, or it cites the Global Climate Risk Index. So let us try to understand what is this Global Climate Risk Index. As the latest index, it has highlighted that India is among top 10 most affected nations by the extreme weather events that are resultant of climate change. So let us try to understand what is this Global Climate Risk Index. It is an index which is published by an NGO called as German Watch, which is a NGO located in Germany in the cities of Bonn and Berlin, and it is an independent development, environmental and human rights organization. Now, the climate risk index itself is a backward looking index. Why am I saying a backward looking index? Because it assesses and ranks countries based on human and economic toll that they have faced as a result of climate change. And this index was first published in the year 2006. Now, the latest index of 2025, it ranks India as the 6th most affected country based on the data it has gotten from 1993 to 2022, that is a sum total of 30 years. Now, India was among top 10 countries that are most affected by extreme weather events between these times, and India accounts for 10% of global fertility which is caused by such events, and almost the cost of damage, it is 4.3% across the entire globe. So out of every 100 rupees that was damaged globally due to climate change, India costed for about 4.3 rupees. Understood? Now, in terms of absolute numbers, India has faced over 400 extreme weather events in 3 decades, causing losses of US dollar 180 billion, and at least 80,000 people have died due to these events. So, you can use such data in any question that appears on climate change. That if you introduce your answer by highlighting that global climate risk report gives such kind of data, you will automatically get higher marks, right? Now, India is at the rank 6th, right? So, there must be 5 countries who are ahead of India or who has been more affected by the climate change, right? So, these are Dominica, China, Honduras, Myanmar as well as Italy. So, that is why India is at the 6th rank here. Now, let's try to solve this question. I will not be solving this question. I'd want every one of you to answer this correctly in the comment section as soon as possible, and I'm watching it. So, everyone, please give the answer to this question. I'll leave the screens for you. Yes. Now, as I tell you every day, we have many courses available at StudyIQ for students who want to prepare thoroughly if they want to give attempts in 2026 and after that. Now, students, they need to get aware of many important subjects. For that, we use the study material that are 18 booklets for all the static portions of the syllabus. We also provide you with the classrooms for each and every subject by expert teachers that will help you solve each and every doubts that you may have. And also, you'll be taught each and every concept in detail so that you do not miss out on any foundational knowledge. Further, if you want to test your knowledge, you will be provided with prelims as well as mains test series, in addition to 24/7 mentorship support, which will provide you with thorough guidance if you need it during the time of your preparation. Now, revolutionary, everyone, option C, Shweta, Yashi, Divyansh, Rishav, Baga Spinks, all of you are right. German watch is the right answer. And as I was saying, if you want to enroll to the foundation courses in StudyIQ, you can do so by going to our website, creating an account here, and then click on Explore Courses for UPSC Foundation P2I Live Batches. Now, if you look at the batches, these are available for 2026, 2027, and now we are in the process of admitting students into batch 2, as the process of admission into batch 1, they have been filled. Now, the prices for batch 2, it is expected to increase after 21st Feb. So, please make sure to enroll for such courses at the earliest possible date. Right now, they are available at 37,499. But if you want to get discounts on this amount also, let me tell you a way which is very good. Now, you must be watching a ticker on the bottom half of your screen which says use the code ATS Live for maximum discount on the StudyIQ courses. So, click on buy now here. Now, you'll be added or you'll be provided an add promo code option. Click on this add promo code and enter coupon code called as ATS Live, which is flashing on the bottom half of your screen, and click on apply here. Now, you saw from 37,499 the course fees has reduced to 29,999. That is a sum total of about 7,500 rupees discount, which is a huge amount of money if you want to spend it, and you can use it for other purposes, be it your personal or education related purposes. Understood? So, that is how you register for our courses, and please do not forget to use the code ATS Live if you want to get discounts. Okay. Now, having said that, let us move to our today's discussion to this next article, which appeared on page 5th and 15th of the Indian Express newspaper, and it states India and US, they have gotten together to change the name of an earlier initiative known as ICT to the Trust Initiative. So, what this Trust Initiative involves, let us try to see this from our today's discussion. Now, Biden administration, which was the earlier president, they initiated an initiative between India and US called as Initiative of Critical and Emerging Technologies, abbreviated as ICT. And now India and US, they have decided a newer initiative called as Trust Initiative, which is a successor of ICT. Now, this ICT, earlier it was led by national security advisors of both countries, and at that time the US NSA Jake Sullivan and India's NSA Mr. Ajit Doval, they got together and discussed how India and US should implement and develop more critical and emerging technologies. So, even the current administration by Donald Trump, it is expected to continue this initiative by renaming it and expanding its overall dimensions and domain, right? So let us understand what is this trust initiative. The word trust, it is an abbreviation for transforming relationship utilizing strategic technology. So you understand both India, that is PM Modi, and Donald Trump, they love abbreviations, and that is why they've coined this abbreviation trust, which is, or in this initiative, both these countries will get together and they want to reduce barriers of accessing technology, transferring these technologies to other countries, and also addressing export controls which inhibit transfer and expansion of these technologies. And they want to do this to enhance the high-tech commerce or trade that happens between these two countries. And they'll do this by catalyzing and promoting the cooperation between governments, academia, as well as private sector, in order to, so that they can collaborate and promote the applications and development of critical and emerging technologies. And these technologies, they are not just related to the fields of defense, but also are related to computing, that is artificial intelligence, manufacturing of semiconductors, development of quantum, biotechnology, and also in energy and space sector. Now, this will be done so while encouraging that only verified technology providers will be enabled to supply their technologies, and they can ensure that sensitive technologies which are developed by these countries will stay with them and not be given to any rival countries like China. Now, earlier there was this concern that many Chinese technology companies like TikTok, Huawei, they were misusing the data from India and US. So that is why both these countries, they try to restrict the access of Chinese companies into their market. So naturally they'd want to develop their own technologies, and for that the collaboration between these two countries are expected to happen under this trust initiative. So you get the meaning of the word trust, right? They want to secure these technologies from trusted sources, and they want to collaborate with each other, which will enhance trust between these two countries. Now, as I told you, this initiative will catalyze collaboration and will also drive innovation in many sectors that I've already highlighted. Now, in 2022, India and US had announced initiative on critical and emerging technology, ICT, specifically to collaborate specifically on semiconductors, wireless communication, and artificial intelligence, and the focus was on defense related items. Now, this trust initiative has wider approach, that it now includes critical minerals and focuses on supply chain also, as critical minerals and their necessity are more important for countries like India and US, as they are developing technologies in fields of electronics, defense. Most of them, they require the use of supply chain as well as critical minerals, and right now 70% of these critical minerals are sourced from just one country, that is China. So rather than depending on China, India and US want to make these or harness these strategic minerals themselves, right? Now, under this trust initiative, the emphasis will be laid on creating a strong supply chain of critical minerals as well as development of advanced minerals and pharmaceuticals. Now, it has been decided also that not just processing and mining these minerals, but you also have to focus on recovery and processing these waste minerals so as to reduce your overall requirement and demand for these minerals. And also strategic minerals, they'll use items like lithium and rare earth elements, which are used in many newer technologies. Now you have to understand, as I told you, 70% of these minerals are sourced from China, and therefore China is a dominant player in the field of critical minerals and supply of rare earth elements. And India and US, they are trying to reduce this dominance of China by developing these themselves. And also India, being a major player in the region, it was admitted into Mineral Security Partnership, which is a multilateral grouping of countries wanting to develop critical minerals, and also multi-mineral security finance network, which is also a grouping responsible for providing loans and technological support to countries looking to harness the use of critical minerals. Now, this trust initiative, it is an effort to create robust supply chain also in the fields of pharmaceutical. Why? Because India is a major supplier and manufacturer of pharmaceutical products, but right now it is also dependent on countries like China to secure raw materials which it uses to manufacture medicines and pharmaceutical products, and these raw materials are called as active pharmaceutical ingredients. Now these active pharmaceutical ingredients, they also use many critical minerals like lithium, magnesium, zinc and selenium, which again are sourced from China. So not just these critical minerals alone which are used in defense and technological related developments, but these critical minerals are also used in pharmaceutical sector, and India being a major manufacturer of pharmaceuticals whose products are exported to US, that is why they want to secure the supplies of pharmaceutical products. As I told you, India is world's second largest manufacturer of APIs after China, and the pharma products which are manufactured in India, they are exported to countries like US. As the pharmaceutical products from India, they constitute the largest share of final consumer goods that are exported to US, right? So that is why these initiatives have started to focus on pharmaceutical supply chain as well as the development of critical minerals. Now, India, understanding the importance of critical minerals, it approved last month the passage of National Critical Mineral Security, which we have understood in our today's discussion and also in our previous sessions. And this security initiative or this critical mineral initiative was brought with a budgetary support of how much crore rupees? 16,300 crore rupees, and it was implemented for 7 years, and 7,000 crore rupees has been allocated for exploration of critical minerals. Now this mission also includes 1,500 crore rupees for a scheme to support recycling of critical mineral. And why recycling? Because we want to reduce wastage and also reduce the demand of newer critical minerals. So what we can do is actually harness these critical minerals from existing products, right? Now, why are critical minerals so important in strategic sectors? As I told you, critical minerals and rare earth elements, these are essential for many securities and development of technologies which are used in fields of defense, semiconductor manufacturing, quantum computing, energy and space related work. For example, elements like neodymium, praseodymium and samarium, these are crucial for high performance magnets that are used in missiles, fighter jets, as well as manufacturing of radars, well as lithium, cobalt, nickel power. They are used in manufacturing of advanced batteries which eventually power energy storage solution and development of electric vehicles. And also elements like gallium, indium, they are key for manufacturing of semiconductors and also hardware of AI, that is graphic processing units. Whereas other elements of, for example, applications in quantum computing, they rely on ultra pure silicon and superconducting materials like rare earth element, europium, terbium, etc., which enhance biotech imaging as well as medical diagnostics. Whereas in the field of energy, rare earth magnets, these are vital for manufacturing of wind turbines. Whereas space technologies, they depend on heat resistant alloys and lightweight materials like scandium. Also, why are India and US focusing on the use of strategic minerals as well as critical and rare earth elements? It is because currently 70% of these elements, these are sourced from one country, that is China. So they want to reduce and end the dominance of China. That is why they are developing it. So let us now solve this practice question. Consider the following statements regarding critical minerals. These are essential for economic development and national security. But they also have a high risk of supply chain disruption. Why is there a high risk of supply chain disruption? As I told you, only one country is exporting it. So if any, God forbid, any unforeseen event were to happen in countries like China, it will reduce or disrupt the supply chain of rare earth elements, right? So first statement is right. India is a well-established domestic supply of all critical minerals required for its energy transition and technological advancement. The answer is no. Because India is always have an habit that any important element or material, be it crude oil, be it uranium, be it technology, be it rare earth elements or even critical minerals, India always finds itself that it does not have that. So rather than making it from domestic sources, India has to rely on imports. So is the case with critical minerals. So that is why India does not have a well-established domestic supply. Rather, it depends on imports in meeting its day-to-day demand for these items. So second statement is incorrect. First is right. We have to identify correct statement. Therefore, option A here is the right answer. Now moving to another article. This article talks about 1-3 agreement. As I have told you, 1-3 agreement is the another name for India-US nuclear deal or Indo-US nuclear agreement. Now during the interaction with President Trump and Modi, it was highlighted that India will start to look to import oil as well as gas from US so as to reduce its trade deficit, right? But what was more strategic and transformative than that step is that India and US, they have announced that Their commitment is to fully realize the potential of India-US Civil Nuclear Agreement, also known as 123 Agreement, and they have pledged to move forward with the plans of working together so as to get manufacturing of American designed small nuclear reactors or small modular reactors and deploy them in many countries including India and US. Right. So let us understand first of all what this 123 agreement is now. This was a civil nuclear deal that was signed between India and US back in the time when Bush was in power in US and Prime Minister Manmohan Singh was India's Prime Minister. Now this was a transformative step as it ended India's nuclear isolation as India became an active participant in global trade for peaceful purposes of nuclear items. Understood? And this was made only possible because India signed a nuclear deal with US which allowed India to participate in the global trade for nuclear fuels, right? However, it has been said that this agreement has not reaped its full potential because of many limitations both in US and India. Now, first limitation in US was that there is an 810 provision. What is this 810 provision? It is actually part 810 of Title 10 Code of Federal Regulations of US Energy Atomic Act 1954. Now this act, it allows American power companies to export their various items or equipments to other countries, but they can export it, but they cannot manufacture these nuclear equipments in any country except US. Now, when they are prohibited it from manufacturing it in foreign countries, that this automatically is a deal breaker for countries like India, because India, although it wants to deploy many nuclear reactors that are designed in US, but India wants to manufacture them in India itself because of many Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, right? But when a nuclear or when an act passed by the US Parliament, it restricts company from manufacturing these items in countries like India. That is why this was a big roadblock in the implementation of the India-US nuclear deal. Also, there were many impediments in the India's laws also, which is sought to be amended right now, as in the budget. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, she announced that India will make changes to the Atomic Energy Act of 1962 by that earlier the Atomic Energy Act, it only allowed the PSUs as well as government organizations to operate nuclear power plants. So that is why Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited, which has some joint ventures with PSUs like NTPC and NALCO, they currently only operate the nuclear power plants in India. But by amending this provision, India wants to allow private players also to start operating the nuclear power plants. So this is how India wants to increase the private sector participation in the operation of nuclear power plant. So this is one roadblock that India wants to reduce right now. Now there is another roadblock. This is called as Civil Liability for Nuclear Damage Act of 2010. Now this Civil Nuclear Liability Act, it provides for a mechanism to compensate for victims who are the victims of nuclear incident. Now, God forbid if any nuclear incident were to happen in India, the liability of that incident and also the responsibility of providing compensation to the victims, according to this act, is on operators of the nuclear power plant and also on the suppliers of the nuclear power plant and their equipments, right? So as the obligation is not just on operators but also on suppliers, so many foreign suppliers belonging to American companies, they are very apprehensive of this move, that in case any incident were to happen because of negligence of operators, even the supplier will be liable or responsible for that damage, and hence they have to pay compensation, right? So that is why foreign vendors have flagged this as an disincentive to invest in India. So India wants to remove this kind of an impediment. Now in the last meeting, the US, it wanted India to guarantee or to give a commitment so that India will amend its Civil Nuclear Liability Act. But India, on the other hand, it was only willing to offer assurance that, believe my word, we will amend this. But the US government is also apprehensive because the current NDA government, it has lesser amount of seats in the parliament. So its ability to pass such a transformative act or such a controversial act will be quite difficult, right? So this is how the roadblock is expected to happen. Now, why is actually the small modular reactors so important for India? As I told you already, India is looking to reduce the amount of emissions that happens for its energy sector, primarily as about 50% of India's current power generation is done by polluting sources like thermal as well as coal power plant. So India wants to reduce this by deploying more and more fossil fuel based power plants, and for that nuclear energy is a very good option. But right now nuclear energy or nuclear power plants, they are quite expensive and time taking to install. So rather than establishing big nuclear power plants, India wants to install small modular reactors which are quite small in size and also can be manufactured quite easily. And these are small sized reactors having the capacity of 30 to 300 megawatt, and these are increasingly seen as an important for nuclear energy, and they will remain a commercially competitive option even for future related purposes. Now India is pushing to have a leadership position in this manufacturing of small modular reactor primarily for two reasons. First is to fulfill its commitment for clean energy transition, and also to use these SMRs and install these SMRs in other countries, which will give India a diplomatic push in the global south. So these are the two intentions why India wants to become a global manufacturer of small modular reactors, and for that it needs American technology. However, right now the manufacturing of these American based technologies SMR, it is prohibited as per the Act of US, which India wants US to amend. Understood? Now let us move to the last article of the day. This article is actually on reciprocal tariff. Now these reciprocal tariffs, these are mentioned right now because the US President Trump has imposed reciprocal tariff on all the trading partners of US. Now this article appeared in the explain section of Indian Express, that is on page 14, and it is responsible, or it is it is relevant for the GS paper 3 perspective, which is a part of economy syllabus, right? So let us try to understand because most of the headlines after the meeting of Prime Minister Modi and President Trump was related to the supply of defense equipments, or India were to import oil and gas from US. But what was hidden below was the most important global event, that was US imposition of reciprocal tariff, which was done on all trading partners of US, including India. Now the actual imposition of this reciprocal tariff is expected to start from 1st of April, as US will find details on how to apply these tariffs on every country. Now let us try to understand what are reciprocal tariffs. Now tariff, you have to understand, these are taxes imposed on import of any items into US if they were to be imported from countries like China and India, right? So suppose if any American citizen were to order a Banarsi sari from India, right? So that sari will also be imposed a tariff that will increase the sari's price when it is available in the US market. So that is why US consumer who will be buying that Banarsi made sari, they will have to shell out more money. This will increase inflation in US market, right? Now these tariffs, they essentially throw mud in the wheels of global trade, because to promote global trade, it was well accepted that the rate of tariffs which were imposed on import should be minimum, and that is why we need to promote global trade. Now let us understand what are the principles of global trade. Now right after the World War II was ended, there was this concept that please do not make war, rather make trade. So based on that concept, the world moved towards more and more freer trade, so that when countries start trading more, they will become dependent on each other, and hence they will not fight wars with themselves. So it was agreed upon that lesser amount of tariff that will be imposed on trade, it will lead to increase in trade, and eventually the whole world will be more peaceful and prosperous. And it was also certain exemptions that were given in these free trade provisions. For example, many agreements like WTO, they give special status to developing countries through a provision of special and differential treatment. Now it was recognized that developing countries, they cannot compete with developed countries when it comes to competitiveness of their products or even quality of their products. So as to encourage the trade, if were to happen from developing countries, we need to provide developing countries a preferential access into the markets of developed countries. So for that, developed countries will not impose higher tariffs on developing countries and their products, whereas on the other hand, developing countries in their own markets, they can impose higher tariffs on goods coming from developed countries, so that they do not outcrowd their own products in the market and also promote their developmental and domestic manufacturing. So developed countries like US, just because of special and differential treatment, they were expected to have much lower tariffs for developing countries like India and China, right? So this was the global principle of trade. Now this system, it ensured that developing countries like India, as I have told you, they could lever high tariffs on goods from countries like US, whereas US, it can charge rather now But this has been appended by US, as US has now charging, or it has started to charge equivalent amount of tariffs on all the countries, which has put this notion of special and differential treatment of developing countries in danger. Now, how will US implement this reciprocal tariff? Now, first of all, US will not simply measure a tit for tat tariff for another country. Rather, it will first study that whether the goods which is coming from another country is just available at free of cost or at a lower cost, or whether or not the developing countries is also providing some kind of subsidies in it, right? So if a country like India, if it were to subsidize any item which is exported to US like rice, the overall market price of that rice will reduce, and hence its attractiveness for rice in countries like US, it will increase, right? So US will want to study first of all whether or not these items have been subsidized by their own country or not, and if it finds out, it will impose higher tariff levels on such items. So this is how tariffs are expected to be employed or implemented. US will not just study tariffs, but it will also study other measures that have been implemented by the government like subsidies. Also, Trump, he in a way dislikes trade deficit, as US, it has significant trade deficit with many countries including India and China, and trade deficit is basically the difference between exports as well as imports. Now, US, it exports items into India less than it imports from India. That is why US is in a trade deficit with India, and also it is in a trade deficit with China. Now, there are two ways if a country wants to get out of trade deficit. For example, US can force other countries to import US goods, as US is forcing India to import its oil and gas, and it will look to balance out the trade, as now India's imports from US will increase, which will try to look or balance out this deficit. And also many other countries like China, it can come to US and set up their own manufacturing facilities in US rather than exporting their products from China into US. So these are the two measures that US wants to get out of these reciprocal tariffs. Also, what will be the likely impact on such tariffs for countries like India? First of all, India is expected, or it is likely to buy more of US based goods such as defense equipment, oil and gas. As I told you, it will look to balance out the deficit right now which is present between India's trade with US. And also, it will mean that when more goods will be imported from US, it will result into higher demand for dollar, which will further depreciate India's rupee. So such kind of imports from US, it is likely to reduce the value of rupee rather, or it will lead to depreciation of Indian rupee. Also, it may go against the very principle of Atmanirbhar Bharat, because India first of all wants to manufacture most of the products domestically, but when it starts to import these products from countries like US, it will set back, or it will go against the government's own idea of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Understood? So this is how such measure can impact India. Now this is your practice question. Please look at this practice question and tell me the answers in the comment section even after the video ends. And the today's session and its notes will be available on my Telegram channel called ATS Live. And you can also scan the QR code for this particular Telegram channel. And if you haven't subscribed it yet, please do subscribe. And if you like watching this video, please do appreciate it by hitting the thumbs up button, and also let me know in the comments how do you find this video. So I'll end the session now. I'll see you again Monday at 4 p.m. every day. So please have a great weekend. Please do study, do revise, and always keep updated with the current affairs. So this was all from my side for today. I'll see you again on Monday.